Welcome back, listeners of the street level and the supernatural. You are listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast dedicated to absolutely everything Moon Knight. I'm one of your hosts, Connor.
And I'm your other host, Ray. And tonight we are going to look at a couple of issues, Marvel Spotlight numbers 28 and 29, Enter the Conquerlord. On top of that, we'll also have just a bit of news about Moon Knight. So grab your issues, sit back, relax, and get your Khonshu on.
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners, new and old. This is another cracking episode of Into the Night. We have plenty of news and two absolutely ridiculous classic Moon Knight issues. I have been away the past week, just celebrating finishing, graduating high school, so
Congratulations, Connor.
Thank you. So I haven't sadly been around to watch more of the Justice League or watch any more episodes of The Punisher past episode 3, but Ray, I believe you have finished both. How have you been, and how have you found those respective series?
Thank you. Been well. Nothing much has happened. Just catching up with friends and family, so that's been pretty cool. And I've finally caught up with the entire Punisher series and also JLA. I saw JLA on Friday, and I went home after that, and I finished off the Punisher with the last episode. So it was there was a lot of comic, TV, and movie watching. It was really good. If I first go on to the Punisher, that was a cracking series, I thought. Unfortunately, no spoilers for anything, but let's just say for Moon Knight fans, it was a bit light on Moon Knight. There could have been potential to have him in there, but unfortunately, we didn't see any of that. Overall, it was a really different and a really enjoyable TV series. It was expected to be quite violent and graphic, and it really did ramp up towards the end. I don't know. I wanted to talk about Connor about because you read that article last week about which Marvel hero turns up in the Punisher show, right?
Yeah.
Remember we had that as a hot thing, and I said, "Oh look, I'll just wait and watch it." Do you reckon we'll be safe to talk about it now, or maybe not?
Yeah, I think so. Probably skip
well,
ahead. We'll timestamp it.
Yeah, we'll timestamp it. So so skip ahead if you want to avoid any spoilers. But Connor, no Marvel heroes there.
Yeah, none.
I was a little disappointed, only because I guess there was that bit of information that was dropped early. So as much as I enjoyed the TV show, the Netflix show, there was a little bit of me expecting something, just waiting for something, and I felt that in the long run it kind of detracted a little bit from the series because I was expecting something and it didn't happen. So that was a little disappointing. But look, overall the series is great, and I actually rate it. I know I'd be keen to watch it again once I get internet in our new place, rather than mobile data, because it just chewed it all up. How many more episodes have you got to go?
I will have the other 9. I only just finished episode 3 before
fantastic.
I left. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I liked.
you've got a lot ahead of you.
Yeah, I liked what I've seen, and I've only heard good things about not only how good it is, but how much it sort of ramps up as well. So I'm very excited to get into it this week. And does it come up to the top, or possibly top as your number 1 Netflix series?
I think it's definitely up there. I would rate it above Luke Cage, only because we've said before as well. Luke Cage was actually quite good, except it kind of faded out towards the end. So I'd put it above Luke Cage. I kind of like Iron Fist, although a lot of people don't. So let's just say probably same level of enjoyment as Iron Fist. So I don't know. I mean, that might be bad for others, but for me, I enjoyed it. I still prefer Daredevil and Jessica Jones on top. And I did like the Defenders, but maybe Punisher slightly above
Okay.
that. Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I really liked it, but yeah, Punisher, it's just really different, and Bernthal's such a good actor. He really draws you in. So yeah, it was pretty cool, pretty cool. And JLA, I saw that on the Friday. Look, not being a DC fan as well, um, I guess I had less of a vested interest in it. I was definitely curious, and I do love the characters. I do like them, I thought it was enjoyable. Um, it still is nowhere near like the best Marvel films. Like if you look at the top Marvel films, like I guess Homecoming and Winter Soldier, and for me, like Civil War as well, it doesn't come close to that. But it's still an enjoyable film, I thought, for what it is. I mean, I was just listening to also Hey Fam today, one of the other podcasts there with which features Levins, who was one of our guest narrators, and yeah, they kind of pulled it apart a bit. Talking about um, talking about like Whedon's humor, like how some of it may have been ill placed. Also, a lot of Snyder's shortcomings, especially how he treated Cyborg, I guess. And also, I think the special effects were a bit of a letdown, I thought, for such a big kind of film. But I enjoyed it a lot more than BVS, actually. But I'd still put Wonder Woman up at the top.
Yeah, that was my
I'd say.
favorite of DC's output, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so those were there was a lot of viewing there coming into this week, but Connor, we've got a couple of issues to cover this episode, a couple of classics again, but before that we have some news.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week for Moon Knight news. A bit of everything sprinkled over. So to crack on
Mm-hmm.
to the first bit, we actually got our monthly solicitations for February of 2018. We saw the official solicitations of that Doctor Strange Damnations event. We see that there's Donny Cates' Doctor Strange with issue 386 will also be tying into that event as a separate
Oh yes,
issue
very
to
good.
the regular
Yeah.
monthly. Maybe Moon Knight will do the same. But for our issue of Moon Knight in February 2018 is Moon Knight 192, written by Max Bemis, art and cover by Jason Burrows, of course. Crazy Runs in the Family, Part 5. Sun King and Bushman lure Mark to a tropical isle with irresistible bait. What madness awaits Moon Knight on this strange island? Will he even survive the voyage? Releases the 28th of February 2018. So, a
Yeah,
big departure from everything
very
so
big.
far.
Yeah, yeah. This is and I guess the first thing to take from this is part five. So we're getting quite a long arc here. I mean, of course, arcs can go any length, but I was assuming it would be like a four-parter or something. Um, so part five, I guess you'd assume that part six might be the end of the arc as well. What do you think, Connor?
I don't know, because it feels almost like a thematic listing more than any sort of arc, because it just feels like
Yeah,
what we've seen from these past 5 issues in terms of reading the first and the 4 others and solicitations. It's really just jumped around. Like,
yeah,
it's obviously we have our narrative, and it's very much this gauntlet as sort of the overarching thing of Moon Knight's enemies just coming hard and fast at him. But I don't know. I
hmm
mean, who knows how long this could go for? Because this is honestly almost seems like it should be the start of a new arc. Because he's now all
mm,
of a sudden been led away from New York to a tropical isle. So
yeah. How's that? That is a very like and the it was actually the solicitation with again like a preview page, which I'm assuming is I guess it would be the cover.
yes, I think
I
that's the
think.
cover actually.
And what a weird departure from New York City and the usual environment for Moon Knight. And we have him basically chained up or tied up underwater, surrounded by some sharks that are kind of looming closer to him. But this really takes him out of his comfort zone, and I think it takes us as a reader out of his comfort zone. I mean, what the hell would Mark be doing on a tropical isle, lured away by Sun King and Bushman? But, unless maybe Marlene is involved somehow to kind of get Mark to go over there. Like maybe she's taken by Sun King or Bushman, who knows? But I found this a very interesting thing, and it's something I would never have thought Bemis would have dropped Moon Knight in. Yeah. So, any thoughts, Connor, on what may happen here?
No, absolutely none. I mean, part of me even goes, "Is this real?" Like, this with Moon Knight and learning what this is. Who knows the real reality of what's happening? But I think, yeah, it just seems such a strange part. Actually, I mean, I trust Beamer so much with the title, so it's such a strange departure, but I have no worries with it. But it does definitely, in no other way than sort of how it works, does it remind me of the current Tom King's Batman, which is just this, which actually put really well by the Serious Issues crew, as you heard them narrate bare bones last week. It's Tom King's current Batman run is is a Batman love I absolutely adore, and it's really just sort of these absolutely crazy and just so almost like Silver Age stories with with a modern edge that put all the Batman characters in such crazy situations to allow to tell specific stories and learn more about character growth. In a lot of ways, there's something Tom King wants to do with these characters that even exists outside of whatever crazy narrative it puts it in. And I think it's very much the same way, this weird departure to a tropical isle may just unlock an entire new part of what Bemis wants to do with Moon Knight's psyche.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a very out of left field sort of thing.
And
but sorry.
No, I'll let you finish.
Oh yeah, I was just about to say it's very left of field, but I'm sure we're still in safe hands with Bemis and Burroughs. I'm sure Burroughs' art is still going to thrive no matter where Moon Knight is. I think he can draw, he can draw the house down of anything. But what were you about to say, Connor?
I was actually on that. I think this is probably my favorite cover so far. Actually, it's honestly just gorgeous. It's Moon Knight strapped in chains, thrown underwater with 4 sharks coming around him, and the way the water is illustrated and coloured, and the clear outlines of the sharks and Moon Knight just has such an ethereal look. It's just stunning, honestly. No other words for it.
It is good, isn't it? Just looking at now, staring at Lopez's colours, it really does shine a light on Moon Knight's face and chest, and then you get that sense of the real kind of dark and murky waters. This should be a good one. And we were always promised as well that Bemis's run will be kind of action-packed and full of a physicality towards it. So this cover certainly doesn't let us down in that regards. Pretty cool picture, and I'm sure for many loonies will be a wallpaper to some phones. I might chuck it on my iPad, I think, Connor. Yeah. All right. Well, we have also. Look, I'm not going to dwell too much on. There are in our show notes as well. I put in a few articles from Moon Knight, which is on our Moon Knight alert on Google, and one was after the Punisher, what should Marvel's next Netflix drama be? And look, we've been over this, I guess, a few times, and the same kind of culprits turn up. So obviously Moon Knight, which the writer of the article has said definitely, without a doubt should. Just pulling it up now. It's Adam Fitch, He's mentioning that, but he also mentions very obvious ones, and I think the ones that we covered before, which were Heroes for Hire, Daughters of the Dragon, She-Hulk is still there. A couple of good ones I'd love to see would be Blade and Hawkeye. I think that would be like as separate shows. I think that would be pretty cool as well. And am I missing anyone out? Let me just try and scroll down. Let me. Oh yeah, Ghost Rider as well. So
Yeah.
all the kind of usual suspects in this article. So again, speculation after the Punisher has been released. We also had another article here from none other than Jeff Lemire, who everyone who's been listening to this podcast would know that he's a favourite of ours and has recently written a seminal Moon Knight run. He actually revealed and let drop in an interview that writing for Marvel, writing actually the Extraordinary X-Men run, was kind of a nightmare. Did you read this, Connor?
Yeah, I did. I sure did. It was
Yeah.
scathing in a lot of ways, but also sadly, kind of what we've heard from other artists in the past.
Yep. Yeah, and in contrast as well, actually, he does actually praise, I guess, Marvel with the freedom that he got with Moon Knight, and you can definitely see that with his run. It's such a different book to a lot of the books being published at the time, and he was certainly allowed to do what he wanted, a lot more scope. You've read the Extraordinary X-Men, haven't you, Connor, as well?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, it was I found that very flat, and it actually put me off the X-Men. The books. I didn't mind the artist. I think it was Humberto Ramos was doing most of it. I like his art here and there, which is pretty cool. But I was really disappointed in Lemire's writing in it, and for him to be kind of on the up and up with Moon Knight and hearing his other independent titles were doing so well. This kind of threw me off a bit because it was like, oh, I thought Lemire was meant to be a good writer. But in this article, Lemire, yeah, I guess he reveals that his hands were tied, so to speak. And it was some editors and some other people from the House of Ideas that wanted to interfere with the vision that they wanted to go towards for the Extraordinary X-Men. So, yeah, bit of insight there. Connor, how about the next couple of articles that we have?
Yeah. So there was an editorial piece, nothing particularly concrete. It was just sort of comic book resources, CBR. I think that's the title. I've never actually known what the R stands for. But CBR sort of asked and discussed the question of, will Disney's streaming service kill Netflix Marvel shows, and sort of discussing the pros and cons of such a move by Disney, and sort of not in a way confirming, but sort of saying that, Disney would be absolutely crazy to do so, and it doesn't seem like killing Marvel Netflix would really do the company any good. So, I mean, if you need a little more reassurance and optimism about this deal going forward, it's definitely an article to read. It's just a pretty good article as well. But yeah, it's just such an uncertain time, and there's a lot of worry and speculation going on about the future of Netflix Marvel shows.
Yeah, we mentioned, I think, a couple of weeks ago that we'd keep a close eye on this because it is something that will affect a lot of fans, with the worst case scenario of something happening. So it's still kind of in the public eye, I guess, by having more articles of this out and people speculating what will happen. But yeah, we can just hope that it bodes well. Actually, more so for if we are to ever get a Moon Knight series, let's hope that none of this kind of muddies the water with comic book TV shows down the line. Yeah, so fingers crossed.
Yes. So, and the next one was just a sort of little review by the site. Was it Little Record Express? Just sort of covering all the new movies coming out with discussing sort of Justice League and Thor Ragnarok, but it does make a nice mention to our boy Moon Knight.
It does a little mention. Yep, yep. Um, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
honestly about it, really. They're
Yeah.
fun little
This was
reviews too, but
yeah. I was just looking at just doing a quick read there. But yeah, it was just a Google must have just picked up the name Moon Knight and plunked that in. But yeah, it was just a nice little review of the movies that had come out. Um, and look, I'll just take the next one, which is another very distantly related one to Moon Knight. This was fun though, and what we've seen
yes,
with a lot
totally.
of yeah, the Defenders stuff is that they really go into detail, like whether it be the newspapers or and they release it out on the internet as a bit of extra, kind of not I guess not Easter eggs, but it's just fun to see. So this one has actually a viewing of the menu that the Defenders ordered at the Chinese restaurant, the Royal Dragon. So I'm just pulling it up now. Yeah, and yeah, so they got things. Oh yeah, they got things that range from appetizers to chef specials to soups, but there are little nods and references to Marvel characters and such. So for the chef special, you've got Castle's chicken special, which obviously refers to Frank Castle. There's JJ's bourbon chicken, Hold the Chicken, which is a little cheeky nod to Jessica Jones. Um, and what the article mentions though is it's unfortunate though that there's no reference to Blade or Moon Knight. This would have been a perfect little thing to do, and I'd agree that uh, it's such a detail that most people probably won't even bother to look at. But for those the fans that really get into it, it would have been good to have a I don't know, a moon cake or something, just to give a nod to it. Yeah, did you see this, Connor?
I only once you put it in the show notes, but I absolutely love this sort of stuff, and I think just generally the feel and the Twitter accounts and just what happens on set and the stuff they release just shows how much fun they're willing to have on the Netflix set and keep active fans and people who really love those shows and follow every series just sort of drop nice little almost gifts for them.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like a it's a bit of a bit of a wink to the fans, and it's a nice touch, I think. So hopefully Netflix do more, but let's hope that they, maybe add a little Easter egg or something in there that will kind of get fans salivating even more than the Kung Pao chicken. So yeah, so that was a little fun article there. Connor, I'll let you take the next couple.
Yes, just to round us off, we have just one site put up a link for the pre-order, which we'll link in the description. But I'm sure there's plenty you can find. But the new Moon Knight pop figure, the one of the sort of regular Moon Knight outfit with the hood and the cape, is now available for pre-order.
Yes, how
it's
great is that?
Yes, I don't actually know what the prices it seems to give, because it's an exclusive, it is quite a bit higher, but as we've learnt from the previous Mr. Knight Funko Pop, it seems that if you wait this one out a bit, I'm sure this will be a bit cheaper in your stores before you know it, so just keep your eye out, or if you're willing to fork out the cash, get on board that exclusive, wonderful looking Moon Knight Pop.
Oh, how good does it look? It's got the it's a classic one. So he's got the his darkened face, of course, and the hood and the cape. And for anyone that because Funko have all those, how they have so many versions of the characters because it's such a collector thing. So I always think of like Daredevil, and you have his his classic costume, which is just the red. But then he's got all these other versions from Netflix and stuff. There's something, I don't know, for me, something quite attractive of just having the classic look. And I do love my Mr. Knight Funko, but just to be able to have to the collection the classic Moon Knight is just, it's just fantastic. I'll be keeping a close eye on that one.
For sure. We will definitely keep you guys updated on whether a cheaper or a non-exclusive one pops up.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and for a final piece of news, as we know, what is it? Lego Marvel 2 dropped last week
Yes.
or the week before. I don't know.
Yeah.
But with sad news, but a great little report by a longtime fan and constant interactor Austin Brackett writes in that Moon Knight's involvement in Lego Marvel 2 is basically just another unlockable. He writes, same attacks, same everything, and even though they fixed the glide animations for A-list characters, they left it wonky for him, almost completely untouched from the last game. He writes, so basically there's no involvement in the story either, even in the Egypt's major setting. Just seems like they just haven't bothered to include it outside of an unlock and that you can mess around with. So that's really sad.
Yeah. It's so disappointing. I mean, as Austin said, there was such potential there because they've got an actual, I don't know, level or whatever you call it, set in Egypt. I mean, surely, if you look at the canon of Marvel characters out there, surely you'd think of Moon Knight being somehow associated with Egypt and whatever thing they have going on there with the mummies and stuff. So this is so disappointing to hear. And yeah, if the controls and everything are completely the same as the last Marvel Lego game, that's kind of even more disappointing because I've got the Marvel. Have you played the Marvel Lego as well?
No, I haven't actually, sadly.
Sure you have. Oh, you haven't? Okay. Well, you're our gaming contingent out of this duo, but look, I'll take it for this one. The Marvel Lego Heroes. I searched and searched for Moon Knight, and I got him, and I was just fantastic to have him. But there was really not much to him. I mean, he could throw crescent darts, and I believe he had a bow as well, a staff, and I think that was it. I can't remember what else other than your standard jump and punch and all that. So I would have thought that this Lego Marvel 2 would have improved on him. You can even have Mr. Knight, and different versions of him, and have him doing something different. But yeah, disappointing news. But we'd like to thank our fellow Looney Austin for giving us that. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm even thinking back to the old West Coast Avengers run when he first made his appearance by helping a time-traveled Hawkeye in the past through Khonshu. That could have been fun.
Perfect.
And I mean, they've done so much fun stuff like 1862 Sheriff Tony and Sheriff Steve. And it just seems like fun little nods, and it just seems sort of sad and unloved that Moon Knight is so untouched. I know you can't fit in everyone, but still, we here are crying our little hearts out.
Yeah, and I guess it just goes to prove that he's still a little fish in a big pond, I think, in the Marvel universe, Moon Knight. So, hopefully he'll get there. If he ever does get a TV show, hopefully that will raise his status. And then you start seeing stuff like, in animation and in games that he actually gets a bit more attention paid to him. But yeah, unfortunately, that's Dems de breaks. Yeah. So well, that's pretty much all for the news articles this week. Any last thoughts on those, Connor?
No, I think that'll do us quite nicely. So shall we crack on to our issue reviews for this week?
Yes, let's go over the moon.
So this week we are following on from Moon Knight's first ever Marvel appearance, creation from Werewolf by Night, 32 and 33. And from such popular demand of seeing him Werewolf by Night, he eventually got his own sort of solo story in Marvel Spotlight issues 28 and 29. And joining us to narrate the Bare Bones, not sure what I was going with there, we have the wonderful and long-time listener Wayne Hunt, lovingly dubbed here as Wayno. He is one of the workers at King's Comics, a local comic book shop in Sydney, and local comic book shop from Ray. And he hosts the Courtside Podcast, which we will link below. It's a weekly basketball podcast. I assume NBA.
Yes.
I don't really know basketball.
Yeah, it's NBA, and it's all year round, and they do a fantastic job. They recently completed their 300th episode, and I had to listen to that, and it's pretty bloody funny. So, any of you loonies out there that enjoy basketball, or even those that don't, and just enjoy a good, entertaining podcast, really check out Courtside. I cannot stress it enough. It is a hoot. Yeah, and if I can just say, leading into Wayno's bare bones, loonies, just sit back and savor what you're about to hear here. This is all put together by Wayne himself. So I have to tip hats off to him. Hope you can enjoy.
Hello, fellow Moonies! This is Wayno from the Courtside Podcast. Today, I'm joining you in all the non-stop solo action of Marvel Spotlight, The Moon Knight, issue 28. Enter the Conquer Lord. Released in June 1976 with writer Doug Moage. I'm going to mess that one up. Artist Don Perlin, colors Irene Vartanoff, letters Irv Watanabe, and editor Marv Wolfman. Finally, an easy name. Let's get into it, Moonies. It's late in Manhattan, and as many New Yorkers were tied to their beds for the night, a group of masked men attempt to break into an unmarked building. Unfortunately for them, they are being watched by a silver and black figure from the rooftops. It's Moon Knight, and he swoops down to dish out justice. It's 7 men versus 1, but the odds are stacked in Moon Knight's favor as he makes short work of the bumbling criminals. With the masked man subdued, Moon Knight escapes in his Mooncopter, with his ally Frenchie at the helm, and leaves the unconscious men for the police to clean up. Frenchie notices that the building the men tried to break into was in fact the campaign headquarters for Charles Thurston, a new candidate for mayor, and he speculates whether there is something afoot, but Moon Knight disregards it. To him, it's just a coincidence in a massive city full of many important buildings. Elsewhere, we see Frenchie's concerns justified as indeed 2 shady figures discuss a conspiracy to frame the existing mayor. One of the men, a huge, bad, powerful figure with 2 large rats as pets, reveals that their plan involves breaking into Thurston's campaign office and pinning the burglaries on the current mayor. Unbeknownst to them, that Moon Knight had already foiled their plans. The 2 men, one named Weasel and the other Mr. Quinn, coincidentally profiled the vigilante Moon Knight after hearing word of his previous exploits in defeating the committee. Weasel cites Moon Knight's history, skills, apparent heightened powers, and his various identities, which until this point had not been known by anyone. It's revealed that they have a mole in Moon Knight's ranks, and this has allowed them to learn more about our fearless hero. As this occurs, the police pick up 7 men dispatched by Moon Knight and discover that they are in fact cops. The policemen are first confused, then wary of Moon Knight. Could Moon Knight be an enemy of the state? Were the cops undercover in their outfits as burglars? We, the readers, learn from Mr. Quinn, who now wants only to be known as Conquer Lord, that they are in fact corrupt cops, which he engaged for the burglaries and their devious plan. With the profiling of Moon Knight complete, and in classic villainous fashion, Conquer Lord opens a trapdoor for Weasel to plummet to his death. It's death by crocodiles for poor Weasel as Conquerlord crackles at his own evil. Meanwhile, Moon Knight is fired upon by the police, who think him a rogue for attacking the undercover cops. He is forced to flee from them. Confused at their actions, he needs to know the reason for this turn of events, so decides to investigate as Jack Lockley, his man-on-the-streets cabbie persona. It's no better news for Conquerlord too, who discovers that his plan has failed and that his 7 corrupt cops have been taken in. Angered, he dons his formidable costume as Conquerlord and takes actions into his own hands. Moon Knight, as Jake Lockley, discovers that Mr. Quinn, aka Conquerlord, is behind a conspiracy to oust the existing mayor and to implement mayor candidate Thurston as his own puppet to control the city. Friends on the street, Gina and Crawley, give Jake the information he needs, and Jake makes tracks to the mayor's estate to try and catch Conquerlord. Spectre assumes his wealthy persona, Steve Grant, alongside Marlene, and the two enter the mayor's estate, looking for signs of foul play. They need not wait long before more of Conquerlord's men crash through, terrorizing the guests. Moon Knight is not fooled by their diversion and keeps his eye on the mayor, and in doing so, he tracks Conquerlord nearby with a sniper rifle in hand. Just as Conquerlord takes a shot, Moon Knight leaps and knocks Conquerlord and his rifle, ruining his aim. They battle, and it looks as though Moon Knight has the upper hand, when unfortunately, Marlene finds herself in the clutches of the Conquerlord. Moon Knight is hopeless to do anything, and as the Conquerlord flees with Marlene under his arm, the issue ends with Moon Knight hearing cries from the estate. The mayor has indeed been shot.
Well, Ray wasn't lying, for the record. I don't think any of you will find that he was lying. Thank you, Wayno,
Yes.
and we look forward to seeing you for the next issue in just a bit.
Yeah, exactly. He certainly set the scene with this first Bare Bones, and to actually kick us off with this two-parter story arc, which features, I guess, Wayno's favourite villain, the Conquerlord. Connor, overall impressions?
Overall impressions, this certainly isn't the Moon Knight you will come to love. It's actually kind of impressive. So, following on from Werewolf by Night 33, this is a Doug Munch written story, of course, and he really he introduces so many concepts in this one so fast it became, such Moon Knight canon so quickly. It's really cool. His supporting cast is set up here, as we'll get into, but for the issue itself, ridiculously stupid villain, and kind of a forgettable story. It probably isn't one of the best ones we've reviewed on the show.
No. Look, despite Wayne's fantastic rendition of the Bare Bones, this this comic I thought was bloody silly. But having also said that, I did chat with Wayne as well, and he actually cast some new light for me for these sorts of issues. Look, it was in the mid-70s. It is just gloriously camp and cheesy, but and it laid the foundation for the likes of Moon Knight and the likes of other characters like Batman to become dark and brooding. So this is a fun romp, and looking back, it's very, very cheesy and absurd, ridiculous, really. But having looking at a different way, it was kind of fun, I guess.
Yeah, there's definitely almost sort of in its cheesiness and 70s-ness, there's plenty to laugh about.
Yeah, it's oh gosh, I had visions of the 1960s Batman, kind of, with Adam West and that sort of vibe. And I know that TV show, surely they were taking the piss out of themselves. So I wonder if Doug Munch here is kind of taking the piss out of comics.
True.
In general, because it's just we'll get into the aspects. Connor, we'll start off with one of yours.
Well, like I said, this issue really despite the humor and piss taking that we'll talk about, it really introduced so much that became Moon Knight canon. Just thought to rattle off all the things that we've got here. We see Moon Knight shown as a man of separate personalities. Nothing dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorder back then. It just seemed like personalities he adopted for the sake of it. But we but we were immediately introduced as his four main personalities: of Moon Knight, Mark, the mercenary soldier of fortune, Stephen Grant, the billionaire he's constantly as, and Lockley, the cab driver. All of their respective roles of getting information from the streets, getting around town as Stephen Grant, all set up here. We got Marlene here as long-time lover here, really. Gina, her diner, reference to her kids. Crawley is shown here as a contact for the streets. There's a butler, Samuels, and and basically all of that really stuck with us. The only thing that didn't in this issue, as the final little bit here, is it is blatantly mentioned that because of the wolf bite, that Moon Knight gets his power, gets more power the closer it is to being a full moon, which disappeared. So yeah, it's kind of crazy how much is jam packed. Well, I mean, you can see by the text how they've done it, but it is kind of crazy how much is jam-packed for one little hero in this issue.
Yeah, there's a lot in there, and as you say, a lot of it has stuck, which is really cool as well. I feel Munch is kind of feeling his way through it as well. He's, with the stuff like Moon Knight's power, I think he's kind of testing the waters, and I guess it wouldn't be a far stretch to say as well that with the introduction of these other characters like Marlene, Gina, and Crawley, that he's actually testing. I reckon he's testing out them as well to see whether they're, they've got any merit or any worth to keep on as well. I mean, hindsight now, looking back, obviously they do because they're still around. But in particular with his powers, and so I think he was very much trying to keep in that werewolf kind of mythos, and so have Moon Knight gain his powers from the werewolf, but then he must have gone, oh, hang on, maybe I can do something with the moon, the height, the pull of the moon, the gravity, and all that. Bear in mind that we don't get any mention of Khonshu or any Egyptian history. So that comes later on. I think that in the volume 1 of the 1980 run of Moon Knight, that's when Munch, wipes clean the slate again and tries to retcon Moon Knight. But it's interesting here that we have him apparently bitten by Jack Russell in those issues 32 and 33 that we didn't see. must have been off panel, but bit him. And the saliva somehow kind of gave him augmented powers. So, yeah, very interesting. We also have the carry-on from the Werewolf by Night. We have Frenchie again. He's still there, starting to look a bit more like Frenchie, with the moustache and chewing on a matchstick, and his little moon pilot hat, which he had in the Werewolf by Night as well. But we also still have the moon copter and the rope ladder, which has carried on from Werewolf by Night, and of course Moon Knight's crescent darts and his costume has changed very little still because it's still very early days. So it's a good fleshing out of Mark Spector. My first aspect was basically what I was about to rant on before we got into our aspects, and it's just it is Conquer Lord. Let's just the elephant in the room. Let's just talk about Conquer Lord. He's my gosh. He's got to be the worst villain, Connor. What do you reckon? Worst in every aspect.
Just wonderfully fucking terrible.
Gloriously camp, and this is what I think I was mentioning about taking the piss out of, I guess, comics and tropes in general. Conquer Lord is the epitome of an evil villain. Like from having a lackey like Weasel, kind of like his right hand man, to I don't know, like Dr. Evil having some pets, but he's got rats in this case. Having a trap door with crocodiles. I mean, you can't get any more tropey than that. The one little detail I do like from him actually is that his eyebrows. He's got one black eyebrow and one white eyebrow. So if it wasn't enough that he dresses up in can we talk about the costume, Connor?
God, what is it?
It's a cross between, I think, Rey Mysterio, the wrestler's mask, and then you got some sort of weirdo funkified Masters of the Universe garb, some sort of, I don't know, some sort of psychotic He-Man thing. But he's got a garish costume, again, which doesn't do him any favors. He looks like a big fella as well, but there's no discernible powers to him or anything like that. I found his plan, his evil plan, which was essentially, as mentioned in the bare bones, is to frame the mayor by actually hiring some goons to break into one of the candidates' campaign offices and then blame it on the mayor. If you think about that, it's not really well thought through, Connor. I mean, like, how is he going to tie this burglary to the real mayor? It just seemed like a very hackneyed kind of plan. So this guy's got all the worst traits straight off the bat. Yeah, what were your thoughts on Conquerlord?
I love Conquerlord because the first mention of Conquerlord, he so this weasel guy, knows information he shouldn't, so Conquerlord kills him, and he's just. But before he kills him, he goes, "Don't refer to me as Mr. whatever his name is. Refer to
Mr.
me
Quinn,
as Conquerlord." Before pushing him into a pit of alligators. What? Alligators? But then he later, after he is so chuffed about killing him, he goes, Conquerlord, what a lovely name. Like, he didn't even think of his name. He just said a name to call him, and then assumed that is his identity. He hasn't thought this through. And then, just, what? You're called Conquerlord. And I'll get into this a bit more in the next, in an aspect of the next issue. But his conquer plan is to be, underground dwellings by having a puppet mayor he can abuse. That isn't conquering. He isn't conquering the world, the universe.
No.
He's conquering New York, and not very well because he's a dickhead. Idiot. He's so bad.
He's got delusions of grandeur, and he's got very poor taste, in all aspects. It's hilarious. When you were saying that, I was looking at exactly that panel when he drops Weasel into the trapdoor, and then he just muses to himself with a rat just nibbling at his forehead. It's like, Conquerlord, it has a nice sound. Like, this guy, he's, I don't know, he's stuck in his youth or something. I don't know. The guy's a bit of a nutter. But anyway, he was definitely a massive highlight, I think, to this issue, and he actually brought a lot of campiness and cheesiness to this issue. So even his mate Weasel, it's funny. Again, if we talk about tropes, he looks like a weasel as well. He's got the turned up nose, and he's got the buck teeth and the bum part down their hair. So it looks like we're really kind of hamming up comics in general, or munches anyway. So with that, Connor,
Next.
with that little rant, look, we've got another whole issue of Conquerlord coming up next. So how about your next aspect just for this issue, 28?
Yes, I want to talk about Moon Knight and Mark and his personalities themselves. It's really, sorry, that was weird. It's hot. It's so hot in this room because we're hitting summer over here, and I'm getting a cold. It sucks. But my point is that Moon Knight seems to be the dominant personality in this book, and Mark and the other personalities almost seems like weird caricatures. Like, Moon Knight as a character is so, when he's fighting, he's so smart. Everything he says is so deliberate, he's quippy. But as soon as he becomes the other personalities, he's all babe and darling, you don't know the right side of the law in this town, hoot and dandy, here's my cab, pour me another cup of coffee. He's so weird. It almost seems like Moon Knight is who he really is, and he just sort of branched out to these other characters. When in the previous issue, we know he got the Moon Knight persona later. It's weird.
It's a good point because by all means, I think Munch definitely focuses on Moon Knight. I think what's happened again, obviously, there's been a bit of interest generated in Moon Knight, so that's gone along the grapevine, and Munch has been asked to write a Moon Knight tale, and that's what fans want to see. They just want to see Moon Knight, and again, I think he's feeling his way with these characters. Like as you said before, it's only just been introduced that he has these separate personalities, so they're very distinct personalities. In the fact that anything that you kind of do or create first off, you kind of have to refine, as you go along, and you can see that's what Munch has done. And so you see exactly right with Jake Lockley. He's your guy in the streets, but he's like to the nth degree your guy in the streets. And Marlene says, "Oh, I'm not against Stephen," and he's like, the name is Jake now, lady, and if you'll excuse me, I've got to catch the elevator up to the so he just and he becomes so annoying that she ends up chucking her shoe at him, and he's waving away, chewing his toothpick, going, "Catch you later, yeah, nice shot," So I think Munch is definitely feeling his way through these characters and trying to get a better sense of it, trying to find out what works and what doesn't. I feel he's onto a winner there with Jake Lockley, because it's such a smart move to have Stephen Grant, who is your typical kind of billionaire, millionaire, and just to contrast that with Jake Lockley is really good. You don't see much of just having a look here. You don't see much of Mark Spector.
No,
right?
not really.
It's more Stephen Grant and Jake. So they're the obvious contrasts, and it's pretty obvious that's what Munch concentrates on, just to try and kind of see where he can go with it. So man, no, nice pick up there, Connor. Look, my and kind of talking about character studies and stuff. My last aspect and what I found interesting was Marlene as well. It's always good to see Marlene in these things, and she has a very different role to what we as Moon Knight fans are used to seeing from her. Like, she is as a character now, and as she's been developed, she's quite headstrong, and she's quite capable of doing things herself. And many times as well, she has actually pulled Mark or Moon Knight out of harm's way, and she's actually saved the day. Over on this issue, there's a sense of that as well, because towards the end, as mentioned in the narration, she kind of joins Stephen Grant to the mayor's estate to suss out the area, try to find Conquer Lord, and she's not afraid to get into the action. Actually, you get a nice little 3 panels here of her taking on a masked goon from Conquer Lord. So she shows she's got a bit of fighting prowess as well, but inevitably she kind of gets in the way. It's not her fault. It's actually
Moon Knight just throws it haphazardly. It seems like
he throws Conquer Lord at her, which is a silly move, Mark. She should have known better. But yeah, that ends up giving Conquer Lord the opportunity to take Marlene hostage. And then she becomes more of the traditional damsel in distress. So Marlene's got a bit more of a role here, and I found it really good to see. I've actually got in my notes. It's really, Marlene's really different as well. She's got a different surname, Connor, to what we all know her surname to be. She's referred to as Marlene Fontaine, and she later becomes Marlene Alrone.
Oh yeah.
Unless of course she was married, Connor. Did you think Moon Knight is having an affair with a married woman? we don't know. But in any case, maybe she's taken her mother's maiden name, or who knows. But for some reason, I guess we'll never know unless we ask Mr. Munch. She changed her surname from Fontaine to Alrone. How would you pronounce that? Is it Alraune or Alraune? It's Alraune.
I have honestly no idea. I always thought it was Alraune, but I've never heard it said.
That's what I always thought. Yeah. So maybe Loonies, if you have an idea of how that surname should be pronounced, or if indeed your surname is Alraune, just drop us a line and we'll correct ourselves. That was our four aspects there. Any little notes there, Connor?
Yeah, a few. Well, firstly, I just checked the internet, and it's Al Run. Al Run?
I'll run, like as in run really fast.
Yes. Yeah, it seems like
Okay.
it. Kind of a.
I'll run.
You can tell with the accent the Al Run would be a bit different. It sounds like it's German,
Okay.
but yeah. I don't actually know, but yes. My one of the points actually is the art. I think the art's pretty good. Despite the fact, in this time artists were really fighting the amount of exposition-y text blocks, but I think Don Perlman, as we saw in the last issue, has some really great attention to backgrounds and character movements. And that brings me to another point, that Moon Knight's fighting style in here is a lot of really sort of graceful dancing kicks and flips. He does a lot of
Yeah.
flipping about and hooking his legs around and throwing them. It's
He's very nimble and agile,
he?
isn't he? He. I mean, he obviously wouldn't be as agile as, say, Spider-Man, who has enhanced powers. But for a human, of course, he's got. Well, of course, his strength is determined by the moon as well. So there is a bit of a augmentation. But he's quite the. I wonder if in the day, like in the 70s, it was kind of like an in thing. Like, you know how they had the whole kung fu kind of era.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely.
I wonder if the fighting styles like that, like kicks, were kind of in, because maybe more traditional, fisticuffs was seen as old fashioned. So he may be reflecting the new style of the time, much like these days we like parkour or something like that, which is quite acrobatic and quite visually stunning. That's probably the same. Moon Knight's he's still got his same costume. He's still got his weird cape. He's got his crescent darts. I just wanted to say, I wanted to jump down to, I think there was an introduction also to Spectre's, or Stephen Grant's, what is it, underwater entrance to his bedroom.
Oh yeah, the nice little dip.
It pops up later on from time and time
yeah.
again. So it's something that Munch wanted to, I think, keep. Maybe he thought, there's got to be a different way that you have a secret entrance, and so maybe he's kind of come up with that as being quite original. It is original to have a water feature in your bedroom, I must say. So it certainly won't be followed if you splash into a. I think what does he do? He splashes into a pool in his estate, and then he somehow manages to end up in his bedroom.
Is his bedroom on the top floor? Because he must have swum up a nice pipe or something to get there.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Maybe it has to be on the ground floor. I'd love to get my hands on the architectural plans here. Have a look at the building. But we'll see how we go. And the likes of Gina as well. She gets mentioned. Oh, I wanted to talk about Crawley. Did you see Crawley in this, Connor?
Oh yeah.
He looks really haggard. He looks really bad shape. I don't know what's going on there. He almost looks like the dad of Weasel. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So you see Crawley. He hasn't got his tea bag yet, which is I love that little touch with him in the tea bag. He hasn't got that yet. And I'm just reading quickly. Does he start speak? He doesn't necessarily start. He doesn't have that manner of speech to him that we know of him, of how he's very kind of articulate. It seems to be that he's talking quite normal here. So again, Munch just kind of developing his characters as we go along. Anything else there, Connor?
No, I think that's it. So if we were to move on to the Crescent Dart ratings, how about you kick us off for once, Ray?
Look, okay. Before I listen to Wayno's narration, I would have to give this. I'd have to say a 2. 2 Crescent Darts out of 5. Because I don't know, because it was so cheesy. But having heard Wayno's Bare Bones, and looking at it through a different set of eyes in the fact that it is kind of, yeah, look, it's a sign of the time, and it was probably a necessity to get to where we are now. I'd bump it up a little to maybe 2.2 crescent darts then.
Okay.
Yeah, how about you? What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I'd probably give it about the same 2.5 crescent dart ratings. I think the art stands up. There's some weird facial work by Perlman.
There is. Yeah, Perlin. Yeah.
That, kind of didn't stick for the characters, and probably as one of the most forgettable and just unknown, never making an appearance outside of this issue Marvel villains. And you can tell as well, Munch is having some fun, as you said, taking the piss out as well. But it's kind of interesting that, plenty of the stuff did stick around. But as an issue...
Oh, that's true.
Look, fairly forgettable, probably. Yeah, 2 out of 5 crescent darts. You could pick this up if you want to, but if you never do, look, that's completely fine.
Yeah, that's true. And just going from what you say as well, yeah, I mean, I think I enjoyed it more, but for all the wrong reasons. Totally. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoyed it because of the absolutely ridiculous costume of Conquerlord, and I enjoyed it because of how silly it was to drop someone into a trapdoor with crocodiles, But that's and maybe that's it. Maybe like if you read a comic like and you want to have a bit of fun like that, a bit of tongue in cheek, that's totally fine as well. But no, actually, you make a good point about this being an important issue because Munch does actually drop a lot of things that will become Moon Knight canon later on. So that is something to be, I guess, grateful for. But let's leave it at that. 2 to 2.5 crescent darts. Yeah. All right. So we have the next issue up for review, and it's no surprise we've got to finish off this amazing story arc, Connor. We've got to see what happens to Marlene and Conquerlord. So if you enjoyed Wayne's last narration, please sit back, grab something nice and warm, and hug it, and listen to this.
It's that time again. What's up, fellow Moonies? It's Wayno from the Courtside Podcast, and when I'm not talking hoops, I'm listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. So sit back, relax, as we delve into Marvel Spotlight, issue 29, The Moon Knight, the Deadly Gambit of Conquerlord. When we last saw our hero, Moon Knight was left in a tough situation, forced to let Conquerlord flee with Marlene while simultaneously tending to the mayor who was shot with a stray bullet. Moon Knight leaps into the mayor's mansion, and although bleeding, he looks to be in a stable condition. The mayor pleads to Moon Knight for justice, and Moon Knight promises to take Conquerlord down, not only for attacking the mayor, but for abducting Marlene. Moon Knight calls for Frenchie through his radio cow and is whisked away, only just avoiding the attacks from police who still think he's a threat to the city. Moon Knight, now as Steve Grant, returns to Grant's estate on Long Island and prepares to hit the streets looking for clues to Conquerlord's whereabouts. He senses heavy breathing from the other side of his bedroom door and catches Merkins, the new valet, spying on him. Merkins reveals himself as Conquerlord's mole and tries to flee. In his panic, he lashes out at Grant and is surprised to see Grant knocked out cold. Merkins flees in one of the many cars, unaware Mark faked the fall as a ploy to shadow him back to Conquerlord's lair. Meanwhile, in the South Ferry district of Manhattan, Conquerlord has Marlene tied up and ready to be fed to the crocodiles. Villainous as ever, he punches the sandbag counterweight which holds Marlene above the trapdoor. As the sand escapes, she slowly drops closer to the waiting jaws of the hungry reptiles below. With the help of Frenchie, Grant, now Moon Knight, tracks Merkins back to the South Ferry warehouse and immediately springs into action. He is greeted by more of Conquerlord's goons, however he relishes in the fight and has no trouble beating every single one of them. Merkins arrives to meet Conquerlord, but it is too soon discovered that he has unwillingly led Moon Knight to Conquerlord's lair. And it's not long before Moon Knight catches up on the scene. A twisted game is then played between the two as Conquerlord's rigged chessboard are booby-trapped with exploding squares and weaponized chess pieces. The only safe squares to walk on are those which follow the chess piece moves. In Moon Knight's case, a white knight. Mooney dodges explosives and all manner of weapons thrown at him and finally manages to meet Conquerlord face to face. The crazed villain evades Moon Knight once again and leaps into an escape ladder above, which shows a control room beyond. With all his strength and agility, Moon Knight is able to leap up through the escape hatch and simultaneously attack Conquerlord. Quick thinking by Moon Knight allows him to trick Conquerlord into leaping back towards the escape hatch, and in doing so, Moon Knight traps him in the hatch, leaving him to dangle perilously above the explosive chessboard below. Moon Knight then finds Marlene and frees her from the ropes just in the nick of time. With their adventure complete, Moon Knight leaves his calling card, a crescent dart beside a bound Conquerlord, ready for arrest by the approaching police. As they drive away, news on the radio tells of the mayor recovering well in hospital, tying up that last loose end of an exciting caper. The only thing left is for some dinner, and with that, Mark suggests some fine dining at the Ritz as Steve Grant. Marlene thinks otherwise and humbly suggests a good old-fashioned burger at Gina's Diner.
Right, so Wayne's kept the theme kind of going, and I think he summed it up perfectly, Connor. I think he's summed up the feel for these two issues and this story in his telling of the bare bones. What was your reaction, I guess, or impression of part 2?
It's kind of a hard issue to review, especially since one of my aspects will really cover what I thought of it. Yeah, just sort of much of the same, you know. This doesn't take any big narrative jumps or improve the quality. It just kind of wraps up this incredibly stupid, fun story in a nice way, I suppose. Kind of a cute ending too. So yeah, you know, it's just sort of the same.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess the story of this ilk as well. You kind of know what will happen. You know, there's nothing really too at stake here. I mean, sure, Marlene's taken away, but you know, Moon Knight, he is very capable, actually, in this issue and in the last issue. He's a very capable fighter. I mean, he takes on 7 guys in the previous issue. He's fought a werewolf, and he storms the mayor's estate and battles Conquerlord and his minions with ease. So this guy knows exactly what he's doing. The only thing is to kind of, I guess wrap it up and justify how to kind of, you know, go into the final showdown, the one-on-one with Conquerlord. Yeah, Connor, do you mind if I take the first one?
Oh, by all means.
Yeah, my first aspect in here would be, it's a small one, but it was Merkins, the valet, who was introduced in the first issue, and it's no surprise. But it's no surprise about to say that he's the mole. But actually, having said that, if I were, you know, back in 1976 reading this for the first time, not knowing that, you know, Samuels and Gina and all the other characters are to be legacy characters, Merkins could easily have been a character that, you know, you'd think would be a regular. But it just turns out, obviously, we know from hindsight that he's totally a one-off character, and he ends up being the mole, and he listens in on Mark Spector with a bit of heavy breathing, and then he panics and he tries to take a swing at Mark, and he does, and Mark uses this actually to track Conquerlord down. So Merkins unknowingly has a bigger role in this story. One, he was the guy that actually gave the information to Weasel and to Conquerlord about Moon Knight, and the other is that he actually leads Moon Knight to Conquerlord. Sorry, Connor, I'm just gonna open the door. I think one of the cats are trying to get in.
Oh no!
There he is. Okay, so as long as you can be quiet. Okay, we'll see. So anyway, Merkins, a short-lived character, but quite essential for this second part of the story.
Yeah, he's definitely like the anti-MVP here, the like LVP,
Yeah.
least valued player. Pretty rubbish.
Least valued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool seeing Moon Knight outwit him like that when it came to just following in the car and feigning being knocked out. That was actually pretty fun. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way. It was a nice little touch actually. I thought it was pretty clever for Munch to do that. That was one of the first. How about one of your aspects, Connor?
I'll just say what I was sort of going to say in my opening that I probably could have kept for the opening. But it's just sort of like the previous two issues of Werewolf by Night we covered. Munch's writing style sort of the same. You know, he built up kind of a nice story and just let the art take its course for a good fun final battle, which isn't like a complaint by any means, but just sort of interesting how he sort of sets this up, and it as a narrative it does sort of set up Perlin's art nicely and sort of gives it more room to breathe without all the exposition and the crushing text boxes.
Yeah. It's still got a bit of that traditional formula, doesn't it? Obviously with the climax at the end, having all the action in there. The first act being kind of tracking, kind of wrapping up who the mole was, because in the first issue, first issue of this arc, you'd want to know who the mole is. So Merkins makes it pretty clear. What Munch does early on as well is, this was another kind of, this was one of my other aspects, but I'll say it now anyway. But because it ties in with Munch's narrative style, he ties things up rather well. By Moon Knight jumping in at the beginning of the issue and looking at the mayor that has been shot, it kind of ties up that little thing about Moon Knight being the enemy of the state, how the police were against him. The mayor, and the mayor's the top dog, and he says, "Oh, look, I believe you. You're not a bad guy. You're not the guy that shot me. You're after the bad guy. So, you've got my word that you're definitely not an enemy." So he drops that in to kind of tie the loose ends. And again, of course, you see that at the end as well. There was that last thing at the very end where Mark Spector and Marlene are in their car to go home, and they hear on the radio, just at that time, which is very fortuitous. Oh, the mayor's okay. He'll survive and he's in a stable condition. We can all rest easy now. So Munch it's very traditional, but he manages to tie everything up quite nicely.
Yeah, and shout out to the one and only time in history where the law ever said it was okay, Moon Knight, we believe you. The only favour he ever got from the police was in this issue. Well, the mayor, the government body. That's about it, really.
Yeah. So I'm pretty keen to talk about your other aspect here.
Yes.
Connor.
So I think the real highlight of this issue is the incredible character growth and development that Conquerlord goes through. I think just his. I take back what I said about him trying to conquer the earth. I think he had a really great idea with building an underground fucking chessboard to battle Moon Knight, and specifically creating a nice white knight for Moon Knight to follow on the chessboard. I thought it was a real strong narrative arc. I just think think it worked really
yeah.
well for the fight scenes. I think it worked really well narratively and just sort of giving this character a real sort of sense of fear and
Yeah,
forebodingness.
he's such a boob, isn't he? Yeah, yeah. Like he's saying, like this chess game, like you're fighting someone, right? You know that you don't like and is in your way. You know, oh, I fashioned this. You've got to do the moves that the chess moves do. You know, you have to do it, and I've booby trapped everything, so you have to play this way. It's like, dude, you obviously didn't have a very good childhood. I would say possibly bullied. But yeah, he's got a terrible way of. And I don't know. Again, I don't know. Connor, what do you reckon? Munch, is he taking the piss again?
Oh,
Or
totally.
is this yeah? Okay, I really hope so because, this is classic '60s Batman again. It's a terrible thing. It has a lot of there's a lot of there's a lot of excitement with it because he's got life-size chess pieces, right? And the chessboard is booby-trapped, so you can only stand on the squares that you're allowed to stand on. But the life-size pieces also are armed with flamethrowers and looks like guns and lasers and stuff. And Moon Knight proves quite adept at avoiding all of this. You know, he's quite a skillful guy. Conquer Lord has a big mace, a spiked mace with him. So it is a bit thrilling, albeit absolutely ludicrous the environment that they're in. But yeah, hey, it all makes for a bit of fun. And what I enjoyed as well was when all is said and done, there was an escape hatch just above, which Conquer Lord just had to daintily jump up onto, and he's kind of free. So it was it was a bit of a crazy thing here. But Moon Knight's prowess wins the day, and he jumps up and he kicks him, and he manages, and this is another one, Connor. He manages to somehow trick him into jumping at Moon Knight with that escape hatch right behind him. So again, Conquer Lord, not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Like honestly, like the chess battle actually gives way to some pretty cool art. Definitely like Perlin stand out. I love especially like there's a great shot of Moon Knight, weird axe in hand as like fire burns behind him, and it just what is Conquer Lord? He's just this weird, ugly, eyebrowed man who became Conquer Lord and built a chessboard to fight in. Like, where do you jump to creating a character like this? And
I don't know.
It's just been just nothing about this chessboard made sense about its existence. Like, there's an episode of the original. Well, there's a couple of episodes of like the original Yu-Gi-Oh show with like the. What is it, like Dungeon Dice Monsters episode, and there's like specific references I'm making that no one's getting because I'm referencing Yu-Gi-Oh, but like that's the strangeness of this all, like the weird Yu-Gi-Oh show, just for some reason it like just seems right out of place with this ridiculous chessboard. I don't know. Yeah, I loved it. I loved every second.
It was just ridiculous. I'm starting to think, about Conquer Lord now quite seriously, and what kind of made him the man he is, that day at least. And it is a bit sad. It's kind of like he's had these plans and these great plans to rule the world, but it almost seems like no one's listening and no one really cares what he does, And he's finally got a bit of attention from this new masked Avenger, Moon Knight. And he finally gets to use his chessboard, which has probably been collecting dust. He finally gets to live out his dream of, battling on this board. But he's a bit of a bumbler, and he makes a meal of it in the end. A little bit of pity for Conquer Lord. It'd be interesting to see if he does ever come back. I myself would like to see Conquer Lord come back, Connor. Maybe, in one of Marvel's big crossover events. That would be pretty cool. But that'd have to flesh him out a bit more than a guy with rats and an inferiority complex. I think they'd have to give him a bit more than that. But look, hey, also as well, Moon Knight and Wayne as well managed to post up on the Facebook group a classic Moon Knight panel here, Connor, when he saves Marlene from the crocodiles. And did you see this one, Connor?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He basically says he's grabbing onto a rope and he goes, "Look, I know it must be getting pretty hairy down there, Marlene, but just try to keep your head on your shoulders for another second while I jerk on this rope." So, again, does Munch know what he's writing? Is it a piss take? Probably. But looking at now, it is pretty funny. And Wayne, yes, I would definitely have that as a T-shirt. Sign me up. Someone get some printers out. Let's make some copies of it. Yeah. So, well, I think the chessboard kind of was the main aspect to this whole thing.
Yeah.
I think that was a big thing. But if we go to Crescent Dart ratings, Connor. Oh, sorry. Any notes for you? Or?
Not really. Just still confused over Conquerlord. I think, in the latest Tom King Batman run, which is stellar, he did something quite amazing with Kite Man and made him such a fleshed out, sad character. After what you said about Conquerlord, I think we really need Bemis to just bring back Conquerlord. Let's get this out. Hashtag Conquerlord 2K18. Bring him back, baby. Let's begin this. Get on Twitter. Text, tweet
please
Bemis.
do.
We're doing this, boys. Conquerlord 2K18.
Please. Yes, please. Let's do it, loonies. Please, please, please. Let's tweet it out to Bemis and let's go straight to the source and hopefully he can do something and bring Conquerlord back. Because I would like to see a modernized version of Conquerlord. I don't know what that would be, but I would love to see him. I don't know, to do something. But yeah, what a strange character. No other notes I can see here. I'm just kind of flicking quickly through again. Loonies, these issues are available on Marvel Unlimited, and also on the Epic Collection, and also the Essential Collection, which is in black and white. But as Connor mentioned earlier, Perlin's art is great, and I think it's best seen in color. So, try to find a coloured version for that. And with that, Connor, Crescent Dart ratings. What did you think of this fantastic issue 29?
I think a definite 10 out of 5 Crescent Dart ratings.
Oh wow, that's a turnaround from the. That was fantastic. Oh, okay, that kind of sprung me. Look, it is hard to. There are two ways to look at it, and looking at it with firm tongue in cheek, you can actually rate this quite high. But look, I'm going to be consistent because I'm a boring sod. So look, I gave it like two and a bit for the first one. I did enjoy this more because the chess scene, and I can't believe I'm saying this ever, but the chess scene was the most exciting thing I've ever seen in the comic book. So it was quite fun, and it was good because it actually, you got answers as well, and it wrapped things up, and I like that. I like that sense of closure. And with these sorts of stories, Munch does it very well. So he leaves nothing up in the air. Everything's tied up. So I would give it 2.4 Crescent Darts. But with Connor's 10, that would give an average of about 6 out of 5 Crescent Darts. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's honestly what I'd give it. Probably like a 3 out of 5. Probably.
Oh, I'm looking over here, Connor, as well. Actually, there's one really cool panel of, you see Moon Knight standing in the doorway, and Perlin does a really cool job. I should try and remember this and post it in the notes. But it's just black and white of Moon Knight, kind of half in the shadows, and you just see the white bits of him, like of his boots and his gloves and his face. It's actually pretty cool. So all right. So about 3. 3, did you say, Connor?
Yep, 3 out of 5. That's like a 6 out of 10, probably.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Well, there you go, loonies. I hope you stuck around for issues 28 and 29, if not only for the fact of listening to Wayne's renditions of the bare bones for 28 and 29. So I'd like to thank again Wayno from Courtside. Brilliant retelling, so really appreciate it. Okay, well, we're heading, Connor, into the next phase for next week, and what do we have in store?
What do we have in store? Well, we are taking a break with our chronology to dive into the next exciting issue, releasing probably the day after this will be going up. Issue 189 of Moon Knight, the second issue of the Bemis and Burroughs run, Crazy Runs in the Family Part 2, where we finally get to see not only the truth, but actually Bemis's take on Mark Spector. Holy crap, it's like the first issue all over again. I cannot wait. We should have Rebecca with us. It will be an absolute delight.
Yeah, I can't believe we haven't, not that I really care because we're just around the corner, but I can't believe we weren't gifted with a couple of other preview pages for this issue.
Yeah.
They are obviously, I guess the first issue is the grandest and the biggest, so maybe that's why we were given so many pages. But I think we're only given just the one for this. Oh, two, sorry. So we were given the cover with Moon Knight standing in the foreground with the bloodied knuckles and some hands from behind him reaching out toward him, which is a cover. And the only other preview page we got was what we discussed a couple of episodes ago, with just Stephen Grant walking out of a hotel and into a limousine. So yeah, looking very much forward to it, and we'll get onto it straight away. I can't believe a couple of days. We also have we thought, since we're doing just the one issue next episode, because we're going to try and keep the latest run kind of special and apart from the other reviews, we'll have a Bushman spotlight, Connor, which should be pretty cool to do. We did a Stained Glass Scarlet spotlight before, and a Morpheus one. So yeah, Bushman, one of the big guns against Moon Knight. That will be interesting to read, and that actually, Connor, we've had some massive help from one of our loonies again.
Indeed.
Tommy Cavill. He has done. He's our man on the streets. He's our own Ben Urich. He so he's done some research for Bushman. So we can't wait to get into Bushman's bio there. And of course, we'll have a guest narrator for our review of 189, and that will be special too. Also, Connor, we'll have a Funko Pop review. Yeah, one of our first review of one of Moon Knight's figures, which will be pretty cool. We've all got the High Priests. We all have our Funko Pops. So I don't know what that will entail, but it'll be interesting to look at.
I cannot wait. I'm picking mine up tomorrow as of recording this, so I will have them fresh in my hot little hands for the review. It'll be great. Can't wait. They better glow in the dark, or I'll light them on fire. Wait.
I'll be interested to know which one you get, Connor. Did you just get one glow in the dark or two?
No, I only got the one. Yeah, I didn't even realize at the time of ordering that there was a blue and green.
Yeah, blue and a green. Yeah, I'll be interested. I think Rebecca said she's got the blue. I think I've got the green. I haven't really tested it. Yeah, so we'll see what which one you get. Also for our spectacle, as mentioned, I'd just like to shout out a massive thank you to Tommy Cavill for doing some research for us. He's one of our other aspects to this podcast, so that's pretty cool. And again, I wanted to shout out to Wayno from Courtside Podcast. Thank you so much again for your time and putting in such an effort for putting in the special effects and the music to your bare bones. It was a bloody hoot, and I was laughing all the way to work in my car when I first listened to it. So thank you so much again, Wayne. And Loonies, please check out please check out Courtside Podcast. It's everything to do with basketball. And again, even if you don't like basketball, it's a really entertaining listen. So we that's about it for this episode, Connor. Are you looking forward to anything else besides the Moon Knight on the Wednesday? Any other issues like comic books that you're going to pick up?
I will be picking up plenty next week. Next week's actually kind of a big week. Let me just pull it up.
You mean this coming up New Comic Book Day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my thing is being weird. I was going to say, look, there is plenty. It's kind of the 5th week. There's some fun annuals happening over at DC. We got
that looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
I might have to check that out.
Yeah. What about you, Ray? You picking up anything while I try to?
I'm pulling up my list now. Oh yeah, Darkhawk is coming out. The one shot from Marvel Legacy.
Very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to expect, but it's going to be fun because Darkhawk was a very 90s character. There's also Eternity 2 from Valiant that's coming out. That should be pretty cool. I enjoyed Eternity 1. Let's just say I enjoyed Ninja K and Bloodshot a lot more than Eternity, actually. I found it very nice. Visually, it was great. But I found it hard to really lock into and kind of empathize with the characters yet. It's only one issue, so we'll see how we go. War Mother, the last issue of War Mother is also coming out as well. So again, a Valiant title, very cool. I'm trying to think of who's writing that. Is that
Van Lente?
Van Lente, yeah, Van Lente. Yeah, it's a pretty solid story. And should make for a nice little trade for those that haven't been following the singles. It's only four parts. And of course Moon Knight I'll be picking up. So yeah,
Kill or Be Killed next week. That's another fantastic Image series that is absolutely mental, like Moon Knight mental.
Yeah.
Secret Warriors. I got to get back into that. I'm actually a bit behind on that. The final issue to Hi-Fi Fight Club, now called Heavy Vinyl, a fun little, almost young adult, queer music comic about fighting up baddies in record stores. It's great. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, nice one. Yeah.
And if you are not, definitely jump over to the our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/ what are we? We Moon Knight?
Into the group? Into the night.
Where we will be talking up a storm as we did last time about the new Moon Knight issue. I will put up a spoiler thread of the Wednesday and just pop them in if you want us to read your thoughts or your discoveries that we won't pick up on the show. By all means, drop them in. We cannot wait. It's just a great time.
I actually noticed in the groups as well recently. A lot of the loonies are putting up some memes. I think it's bloody hilarious. So keep it going, loonies. It's always fun to see, and it's great to have that interaction with fellow Moon Knight fans. So I'm assuming we're all loving it. I know I am. Check out our website as well, Into the Night podcast.wordpress.com, and that will actually take you to a whole lot of our links out onto the cyber web interweb space. I think I finally got us onto iHeartRadio, Connor.
What?
So so that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if we're actually on yet because I said it can take up to 2 weeks, but I've put our submission in and we should be up there for any of you loony listeners that do use iHeartRadio. So that'd be pretty cool. As well as Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, you name it. We're all there and all good podcast catches. So so we're slowly growing again. It's been a good one. This has been a very different and a very cool episode for review, Connor. But looking forward to hitting the modern Bemis and Burrows issue next week.
Yes. Yep. that just about covers it, actually. And yes, thank you once again to, as you'll see next week, Tommy, for all the incredible research. He will be
Yes.
shining.
And
I don't know. There's a good saying that I can't think of.
Tommy will be revealing Tommy's hard research as well, hard worked research. But we also may be hearing from Tommy. So with that, loonies, just take care, please. And as always, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
See ya.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.